Okay, let's get this started. This is What's Up Dave for Wednesday, May 31. It's 5:30 p.m. I woke up 3 hours ago. My day is sliding backwards again. So I'm not sure how I'm going to recover this, if I really want to or not. There's something nice about just waking up, working until you pass out, and then sleeping until you wake up. But it's not a good way to keep in sync with humanity, and it will eventually cause me to feel disconnected and awful. So I might have to do something about that tonight just by maybe trying to do less. One theory I had was that the longer that I work on stuff, and it doesn't need even to be regular work. If I'm just focused on stuff, I seem to require a certain amount of decompression time, and this demand for the decompression time is unrelenting. Even if I'm exhausted, I mean, my brain still needs to wind down somehow. So yesterday, what I did was I jumped into Elder Scrolls Online, thinking I'd be there for like 15 minutes, but it just was just mindlessly completing quests and stuff, and it wasn't really productive, except in terms of gaining levels. But it was just mindless game progression stuff, which I nevertheless kind of enjoyed. But I don't know. Finding the variety of tasks, I think, is important to me. But anyway, what are we doing today? Let's take a look at what I had written in the notes. Apparently, we're going to talk about some for show and tell. Two new things. One of them is a design book I got that I'd forgotten I ordered, and it's called House. The Process is the Inspiration. And House is a well-known. Well, I guess it's well known to some people. It's well known among designers, although I wasn't really aware of it until recently. So I posted something about this on my Instagram the other day. I think this isn't stretching out far enough. There, that's better. You switch views. So this is a lovely book, like the Draplin book that I got yesterday. It's got a lovely cover. And this is a book that, look at that. This company, I didn't know the history about them before. Were known, I think, in the 90s for designing these cool fonts. And I remember seeing these font packets. And they were like super cool packaging. It was like there's a forward by J.J. Abrams here. About two guys they met, and looks like they formed this brand company in 1993. Their first client was a paper factory, and they said, "Here, sure, make a bunch of cool things to help us sell paper," which gave them access to all the papers. And so they started making these ridiculously cool things. The one thing that really appealed to me about this book was how here's the paragraph in chapter 1. House Industries is built on the selfish notion that incorporating personal interests into our work, though it took us a little while to figure out that. Though it took us a while to figure that out. They're built on the selfish notion of incorporating personal interests into their work. And I think that's what I want to do. And so their initial, this is like some case studies of the work they had done in the past. And somebody might even remember seeing these packages in the 90s. And I saw somewhere else that they were writing we need to develop product, and so this idea of getting away from, I guess, work for hire. If you're not going to do work for hire and working to someone else's specifications, you better be able to bring your own highly obsessive specifications, your own work in. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say, but I've just started looking through this book. But this is really cool. I think this is going to be my new design Bible. I should do something on the design Bibles I currently have. There's this one. There's the Paul Smith book, which is also a favorite of mine. Let me see if I can pull it up. That one is called Inspiration is Everything, I think. Or Anyone Inspiration. Paul Smith. Paul Smith is a fashion designer. But you can find inspiration and everything. I think this is out of print. Maybe oh no, it looks like they've republished it. you should grab this. Or, wait, 13 used. Yeah, so I think it's out of print, but if I can, I'll just show this book off next time. I've actually have 2 copies of it. Someone on a recommendation that of mine actually bought a used copy of it, and didn't find it to her liking, but sent it to me so I could pass it on to other people. So the idea was to make this kind of like crate of design books, kind of like the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, but with design books, and to figure out how to get this crate sent around the world, which meant I would have to make a cool crate, a crate of my own devising. But there was a third book, probably. There's a few canonical books that I think are important. The next thing I want to look at is the ribs. So yesterday I was smoking ribs, and this is the first time I made spare ribs in the. How come it's not opening up? This is the first time I made spare ribs. And let me switch over to the screen here. That's a picture of the book. So they look okay, right? Look great. But you know what's wrong with these? There's way too much rub on it. The rub is so intensely flavored that it was just too much. And so I read up a little bit on it, and apparently, I thought that the rub was to infuse the meat with flavor. This was after like 6 hours. You can see there's considerably, the meat fell off the bone more easily, but it was very blackened and dehydrated, and that's just my cat. So these ribs are at 4 hours. These look pretty good. These could have maybe stood for another 30 minutes, I think. But they're still a lot of moisture, but it was just too much rub. So apparently I've been slathering it on too much. So that's an adjustment I'm making. I actually have another. That's strange. I have another rump, pork butt in the smoker right now, and I applied the less rub thing, and I'm going to do another overnight smoke. But instead of stopping it at 175 degrees internal temp, which I thought would maybe give me a more tender, pullable meat that wasn't cooked to 200 degrees, which is like what's recommended. That seems like super high to me. I'm going to let it go up to 200 this time. And the reason why is because I had some commercial pulled pork. Just kind of wanted to see what the difference would be like. And what I noticed with the commercial pulled pork, this is just something I bought in the supermarket, was that even though that the strands of meat were dry, what happens is like the rest of the sauce and the flavoring that rehydrates those strands. So even though 200 degrees is enough to kill a piece of meat if you're just going to eat it normally, I think in pulled pork, the rehydration with the sauces and stuff like this helps with that. So this is the pulled pork I pulled up. This is much less heavily rubbed than before, so I think maybe this will allow some more of the smoke to get into it. There's still plenty of salt and sugar on that thing, so it should add some flavoring, but it shouldn't be overpowering in the way that I've been finding my experiments. So next time I'm in the mood to try spare ribs, I definitely am going to use less rub on that. Let me see if I can find an example. So you can see how much I was putting on this. So I just layered it on top of that, like that. And that's way too much, because that's pure sugar, salt, and there's nothing really. It's just way too much. So just putting a lot less on it would be the way to do it. So this is last time I did the rub. This is how much I was putting on it, and that's still quite a lot. It's like I thought it would form sort of like a sugary coating. I probably used too much mustard as a binder to get things to stick to it. But that's show and tell for today. Let's move on to doing some work. So what do we have going on? Let me go split cam here. Here is yesterday's ETP. And these are old OKRs. I printed out a new sheet for that, which is over here. This is the new OKR sheet. I copy and pasted this into, I think, TextEdit, just so I could get the prettier icons. This one is what I printed from the PC side. I don't know if you can see that, but the PC emoticons or emoji look quite a bit different than the Macintosh ones. But I couldn't print these directly from Google Docs on the Mac. So let's take a look at this. So we get a pen. So as I mentioned before, I woke up like super late, like around 2 p.m. Say it was Wednesday, right? And I was like up until 7 a.m. last night. And there was really no good reason for it, other than I didn't want to go to sleep. Wah. So 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Now it's almost 6 p.m., I think. It's 5:30. So what am I going to do to recover today? Let me just make a note of that. How to recover. I could have also put it up here, but I didn't think of that until now. Now it's important for me not to think that I'm behind or I've screwed up already, and that I will never achieve the full potential of what this day might have been had I woken up early, and if I had been perky and bushy-tailed and had, all these wonderful things. Because that's self-defeating thinking. It's not going to help me out at all. So the question is, what can I do in a couple hours a day that will move me forward in some significant manner? On a related note, that kind of is related with the screen stuff. So if I look at, where is this, Docs DS co-work, I was working on this list of resistances theory. The resistance is what you do, is what I'm calling those contributing factors for me to procrastinate or not to do something or not face something. And I've been compiling the thoughts as they've come to me. And the whole idea of the resistance comes from reading Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art, which I added a bunch of them yesterday. The reason I'm blowing this up is what I'm talking about now is not letting stuff bother you. It's right here. Resistance Theory 13, the feeling that one is losing a race or competition by comparing one's progress to that of another person. Yes, that's the idea. I mean, I guess 3A would be the feeling, the general feeling that one is losing a race or competition. And I guess the corollary, I'm going to make another one, resistance theory 13, 14. The feeling that the day is already ruined and imperfect, thus undermining one's enthusiasm for catching up. That's a pretty common one, I think. That's one I'm not going to fall to. Because if I'm up for like a few hours, if I get like, a couple hours of good work in, then I'm going to count that as a win. I think there's part of me that says that, I should be able to work for like 10 hours in a row producing master works that are of value. That's why you can charge the big bucks. But I don't know anymore. I don't know if that's true. So anyway, let me go back to the screen here. Let's see. So I'm going to just fill this thing out. One thing I want to do is I want to do work-wise, I want to look at, what's it called? It's called, look at UI bind. And there's some replacement stuff I need to do here. I'm not sure what that's going to entail. But just looking at it will be a good start. not letting the uncertainty of that stop me is one way of dealing with these resistance things. And then, having done that, I already did a few chores today, which was cooking a bunch of meat that was about to go bad. So I cooked a beef for rendang. I was gonna make beef stew, but I realized I didn't have a lot of the ingredients. I cleaned the smoker from the ribs, which had made a big mess. I prepped the pork butt for the overnight smoke. That's going now. Let me transcribe these things from yesterday. So even though I'm not doing it doesn't seem like I'm doing a lot of stuff, and I do feel I am behind and I've screwed up the day. I'm trying not to let that get to me. But the minimum I can do is just make sure that I don't lose continuity of what I said I was going to do. I mean, this may be the only time that I'm really thinking about these as I'm transcribing them, but in time they will get dealt with. I am fine with carrying these over every day. Because sometimes, at some point, I'll drop them. I did listen to The Art of Charm podcast in the car yesterday. It was okay. I didn't much care for it. I think it had sort of like it was very coachy feeling, and I tend not to like stuff that's very super coachy. There were good tips, though, I would have to say. It's my personal reaction to it is just being curmudgeonly and like having heard a lot of these things over and over again. Static site mockup. I did actually start on that. So this is ongoing. I had written a note here. Give myself permission to enjoy the moment. I'm going to retranscribe that because I need to remember that. Give myself permission to enjoy in the moment. Make sure the audio is still working. Looks like it is. So I think that's it for today. So this is the main thing I want to do. And let's see, 7, 8, 9, 10. I want to stop work stuff around 10, or maybe 9, or even maybe in an hour. And I'm going to try to get tired so I can go to sleep. So I want to be in bed by noon. So or by 10. Go to sleep early. That's a major task. So what I'm going to do next is just jump into some work. I'm going to do the UI bind stuff. That's JavaScript work. In fact, let me start it all up. How come I don't hear anything here? So what I'm going to do here, this will be fun. Let me go to screen plus chat. And over here I have my launch play automator action.
Opening development environment.
So now it's opening my development environment. Is it hard to do it? Yep. So let's embiggen that. And let's embiggen that. Let's move Quiver over this side, even though I'm not using Quiver very much these days. Let's see, this would be here. So yeah, now this is all up. And all I need to do now is and now the environment is running and ready for me to look at it. I guess one more thing I need to do is open up a web browser. I wonder if I could just have it actually run the program. Now it's still compiling. I can probably edit the script here. Yeah, so like now it's up. And I just remade this thing yesterday. So now it's all React friendly. And why is that slow? Oh, I am running a lot of stuff on this computer right now. And this moves. That moves. This should increment. So I've added click select support to these, so I can click on these. I can tell them and make the difference between if I'm dragging them or just clicking them. Because we need to add UI elements to this, so we can actually change these to have different properties. So they're going to have a selector list someplace where you can choose what those are and then move them. The burst stuff still works. This is like the noise rejection test. And then also we can introduce simulate noise in the system, just to make sure that that doesn't affect our inputs. So, okay, I guess I'm ready to start working. So that's it for today. That's the What's Up Day for today. The stream for me and my friends on the internet. That's you, Roger. You're my friend. And anyone else who has to be watching, I guess. So have a good afternoon or morning or wherever you are, and I will see you tomorrow.